Shawshank Redemption, and yes, because he does Shawshank Redemption and American Beauty, and it's the shot where they first come on Shawshank prison, and Morgan Freeman is doing that introduction and voiceover about Andy Dufresne. Gets me, gets me. I could play it in my sleep. Like, absolutely gets me every time. I don't know about the American Beauty soundtrack. I know that he did the Road to Perdition. So Road to Perdition soundtrack, which I think is a comic book movie technically. I think it was a graphic novel. So I think Road to Perdition is a comic book movie. So totally counts. And he did 1917. So check that out too. Actually, check out the movie too. Absolute tension. Just if you like movies with just painful amounts of tension, check out 1972. But also check out the soundtrack. Yeah, because worth it on both marks. And all of that's bullshit because Purple Rain.
We were waiting for
Always
it.
wanted to see you laughing in the purple rain. Purple rain. Purple rain.
Oh,
Just
we were just
saying.
waiting for that. We had no
Yeah.
idea, you know, we were waiting for that all that time. You like, this was for the viewers, for the listeners at home. Greg, like,
Purple
actually
rain.
like taped himself
Purple
down to
rain.
not talk about Prince and to hand the reins over to talk about Prince to Rashawn. That was a lot of personal growth in one episode. That's all I'm saying. Because
What's that? What happened?
To be fair and to be clear, there was a specific reason why I stayed away from Purple Rain. I referenced it
right.
out of respect and royalty and all that good stuff. You know, it's like bending the knee. I made sure to, you know, to point out it's in the room. Like, you know, it was acknowledged, but I knew I couldn't talk about it. Why am I talking about it? Greg's right here.
for all of our listeners at home, you'll never find a bigger or more devoted Prince fan than our man Gregory Descents, the Star Child. So,
That's American genius.
Yes, absolutely.
Another shout out to my parents. They took me to go see that.
Oh, awesome.
Respect.
No one was, yeah. No.
Oh, the fucking 80s, man.
It's all good.
I had to wait till it came on Channel 56, so don't worry about it.
Oh, wow. That must have been hacked up something fierce.
Yeah, it probably was.
that was long before Vanity went and found Jesus, but you know.
Also, I hope this, if you can put this in recording, if you can, all good. But like, also shout out to Spike Lee and his movies, because like Crooklyn, whatchamacallit, Mo Better Blues. Mo Better Blues was instrumental in getting me into jazz. I hate to say it. I know people are gonna be like, how the fuck is that possible? It's not so much I didn't love jazz before, and not so much I didn't like care about the icons, but that's all I knew. And
right.
So it was like it brought a modern sort of feel to it. Like it to quote the bad cliche expression, it wasn't my father's jazz.
Right. Well, I was curious about that only because you talked about how much your father did introduce you to certain music. So I thought he might have been a jazz fan. No one never knows, you know.
It wasn't that.
Well, I'm an all music fan.
Wasn't it soundtrack Wynton Marsalis?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of Wynton Marsalis. Yeah.
To point to both of you, a couple different things. Why I didn't go with Vangelis and Blade Runner is all the copies I have found insist on putting dialogue from the movie in it. And as much as I love the movie, I want to hear the music from that film, which I really love without the dialogue, because some of the best points in that movie is just his music and just the keyboard stuff he does, and just you can see it in your mind and how it goes with the visuals. It's actually much more visual enhancing in that particular film. And for whatever reason, on some of it, they have Sean Young giving dialogue and all, which isn't bad. And it's not even like I don't like I just don't want it in that experience. Like, you know, I want to put on that music and maybe introduce a little THC into the environment and chill. Right? That's the idea. Is just, you know, that we're kind of running with that. Rashawn, to your point, what I heard, and this may go to the matter of urban legend, was that Prince wanted to be not only on the Batman sound, they went to Prince and said, we want you to write a song for the Batman soundtrack, and he said, "I'm Prince. I am the Batman soundtrack." And apparently, yeah, of course, this is legend. So, listeners, by the way, if you know these stories, if you find out, you can prove me wrong. Write into us. We're all about that. Do you even steam bro at Gmail? All right. By all means, bring that to us. But reportedly, he met with Danny Elfman, and they bounced some ideas back and forth, and because Elfman was kind of that style of filmmaker and fit really well with Prince's musical vision and the vision of the film, they kind of pushed each other back and forth, and then that produced that album, which was incredible. Which, as you said, the Bat Dance. I remember going to summer camp. Absolutely. I remember summer camp, and we'd have a show. It was an art camp. It was a performing camp. We played music. We put on plays. We made little films. So it was all just, leading to this moment right here, as I got a microphone in front of me. It's where I got all my groundings. But I remember every noontime around lunch, you'd grab your lunch and you'd watch the noontime show, which was like something these kids, all as kids, we'd end up putting together something, and everybody would take turns and, or ask to be in one. And I remember them doing
Sounds awesome, by the way.
It was awesome. And I remember them doing the Bat Dance, and they had, and they put together costumes. They put together costumes and had the cowls and and the whole, they really put a lot into it. And they had that song playing over the PA system, and that one took enough room. I remember we had to go on the field. We actually had a stage usually that they used, but that was big enough. We had to go out. Like, everyone had to turn around, and the kids were on this field that was behind us, right? So, as you say, that was a phenomenon that took over, and the album did come out for the movie, and everybody wanted the album too. Like, we wanted the album, we wanted the movie, we wanted to see it. And Danny Elfman does the score for it, but Prince did all the a lot of the different all the different music that we know from there, and all the
yeah. I mean, it's the reason why I just cannot lose sight of that moment. I mean, we talked about the pop culture zeitgeist and how I can kind of control things in and out of pop culture, like that chicken and egg situation. And I argue that moment created the anticipation, the modern anticipation for soundtracks, wherever the soundtrack ended up being for the movie, including the Batman series, because then it became like, who's doing the next album?
Right.
Who could actually live up to it? But then it transferred to other entities and other movies. But the whole idea of the anticipation of the soundtrack, almost more, in some cases, definitely more than the movie, or to make up for the lackluster of the movie. I remember, like, just quick anecdote, went to go see Any Given Sunday, like the opening weekend. And because the soundtrack came out before in the movie, when no one had seen the movie, soon as they started to have parts of the soundtrack in the movie, the entire movie, this was in Nashville, by the way, so everyone was talking. So no one was being quiet. But when that part of the movie, when the soundtrack parts would come out, literally the entire movie theater was singing. Like, it was just as if we had watched the movie together for 10 times straight. We're like, oh yeah, this is time we sing this part. Like, that's the type of power these soundtracks can have on the pop culture level. Although you and Greg definitely nailed the high level, the high culture part to it. Because Greg's right. Because another personal anecdote, my dad loved Godfather so much that I literally knew where he was in the movie based off of the soundtrack.
Oh,
I didn't even have to see it. Didn't even have to see it.
Yep.
Same thing with Aliens.
Right.
Greg's nailing it. I knew, like, I used to be so scared to watch that movie. I knew exactly when to come into the room based off of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
All right. I'll leave 2 very quick points for you. For Greg, for you, for James Horner. Find a movie, go and find a movie. Is called Battle Beyond the Stars. I think I referenced it in the last couple of weeks as well. It's Roger B. Corman, who is the king of the B movies.
Roger
on
Corman.
that movie.
Absolutely.
On that movie, the film, the film loader is James Cameron, and the score is done by James Horner. Right. And this man, if you look in his career, he launched a lot of very high-end directors and very high-end producers, and a lot of people who did a lot of stuff in Hollywood, including Ron Howard. Often his deal was, in Ron Howard's case, he made him star in one of his B movies called Eat My Dust, which is a classic B movie exploitation film. Ron Howard pops his clutch and tells the world to eat my dust, which he even talked about going on. He went on Letterman back when he was on NBC and talked about that experience and talked about how Corman basically said, I will give you a movie you can direct a movie, but you got to star in one of my movies. And this is the movie he had to star in between Happy Days and where he was getting
God bless him.
You know, so just always a fun anecdote I always have to throw out there when you hear about like James Horner and stuff. And it's a James Horner, and it's baby James Horner, but it's James Horner. You can totally hear it. It's a cute little movie. It's a space version of the Magnificent Seven, but I won't stand on that. And I will throw in one last little honorable mention that I can't leave, which is Peter Gabriel. Most people know him for his solo work and his work with Genesis. But he did the soundtrack for and the orchestral movie for Passion of the Christ, as well as another lesser known individual film called Birdie. Which was all about a man who thinks he can fly, right? So I do really love Passion of the Christ. I do think that once again, it was a hell of a subject matter. By the way, any filmmaker who's willing to be excommunicated from the Catholic Church, which, you know, if you're raised in the church, I'm the Jewish guy here. So, but, you know, Greg, you're shrugging your shoulders, but they are telling you you're going straight to hell for doing this, right? The Pope himself is like,
it's their opinion.
Pardon?
It's their opinion.
Yeah, there you go. You go to hell. You go to hell and you die.
You'll be fine.
But that's, you know, that was the, you know, you want to talk about a passion project, right? He's really totally putting that in there. But I really think it ties it together. Willem Dafoe's performance in it's amazing. But Peter Gabriel's version of just the way he winds the melodies into things, you know, Middle Eastern tones.
How are we a pop culture podcast and you're going to go in this direction and just leave out Say Anything? Well, literally the most iconic moment of any romance movie coming out of the 80s.
See, that's the case with a lot like Wayne's World of Resurrectium, right? He doesn't actually have anything to do with the real soundtrack. And that soundtrack has Red Hot Chili Peppers on it. Great little track off of Taste of Pain, off of Mother's Milk. You know, has a lot of great songs, but that was like
a great soundtrack, but
great soundtrack.
That moment has been replicated to the point of becoming cliche.
Well, it's so replicated, you can't help but look back on it, and you're like, "Wow, we thought that was romantic, and that will get a restraining order put on."
Didn't to say the same thing in like 5 words. It's cliche now. Like that's how powerful the moment is, and yeah, you're probably gonna get someone called.
I just can't believe that we were telling young men, okay, here's what you do. You show outside her window at night and you play the song that you first banged to really loud and you hold the boombox.
I gotta tell you, if that's the worst advice we're pulling out and fucking Say Anything to young men, we're doing actually all right.
We're doing okay, but it's still like, okay, I can't look at my sons. I got 2 boys.
That's levels below a lot of other shit that happens in that movie. Levels below. That's even before we get to Jeremy Piven.
My choice, man. Yeah, no, absolutely. I cannot look at my two boys are 9 and 7. There is no way. You must chill.
Give me your keys.
I always actually used to say that's what it was like trying to get, like when brought my first son Isaac home from the hospital, and I was like walking him up and down and bouncing him and going shh and like trying to get him to go to sleep. I totally felt like John Cusack. You must chill. Kid's wide awake all night. I remember walking him up and down, bouncing him, shushing him just like you're supposed to. I remember pulling him away from my shoulder and his eyes looking back at me wide fucking away. I ain't close to going to sleep, motherfucker.
I was thinking about that movie the other day. I'm sorry, like I know we gotta go, but literally we have to talk about this movie because there are so many wrong things. Like,
yes,
the party in which we are talking about is held by a guy in his like late 20s. Why is there a bunch of high school kids there? And why is he getting fucked up? Like there is so many things going wrong in this situation.
He was Matthew McConaughey. Before there was Matthew McConaughey. Like he knew it.
It's a high school thing too. They're like, oh man, we gotta go over so-and-so's house. He throws his graduation party every year. It's like, why? Why?
'Cause
What
this
movie is this?
This guy is 42
This is
years
say anything.
old.
This is say anything. In the opening scene, he takes her to in the opening of the movie, he takes her to a party.